Okay, students, we're going to first talk about how to multiply and divide fractions today. So I'm going to start with division here. It doesn't matter. Division and multiplication are similar. Okay, the main thing you want to remember is division is multiplication by the reciprocal. So if I ever ask you that question, or any teacher asks you that question, you should be able to say, what is division? You should be able to tell them multiplication by the reciprocal. You could also, that's the answer I'd be looking for, but you can also call it repeated subtraction. That's what you would have done in elementary school to show when you first learned. Okay, it's repeated subtraction. Okay, so when this number one says 2/3 divided by 6/27, what I'm asking is how many times does 6/27 go into 2/3? So it's how many times the number on the right goes into the number on the left. Okay, that's what you're asking. So if they ask what division means, that's what it means. Okay, now how do you do the calculation? That's the multiplication by the reciprocal. Now, one of the things you also want to do when you deal with fractions is first simplify each fraction. Get down to smaller numbers. Why deal with bigger numbers when you don't have to? 2/3 is not simplified, but 6/27 does. So 6/27, I can divide each by 3. That's the GCF. Remember, GCF is greatest common factor. Divide each greatest common factor, each number by the greatest common factor, which is 3, and that gives me 2/9. Now, some of you literally have to write out divided by 3 there because you don't know how to do your basic math in your head still. And you might mess up. Okay, you should be able, if you're solid, be able to do that in your head. Now we change division to multiplication by the reciprocal. So now I have 2/3 times the reciprocal of 2/9, which is 9/2. You need to remember from elementary school, middle school, reciprocal means to switch the numerator and denominator. Of course, you got to remember what a numerator and denominator is. The numerator is the top number. So don't say the top. Get used to saying the right vocab word. Denominator is the bottom one. Use numerator and denominator. Okay, now some teachers will teach you to multiply straight across and then simplify. Again, that's going to deal with bigger numbers, and we'll see an example of that coming up. We want to make the numbers small as possible. So we're going to do and look to do what's called cross canceling. Not cross multiplying, that's for solving proportions. We're just cross canceling or cross reducing. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 2 once. GCF between 3 and 9 is 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 9 3 times. Now I multiply straight across. 1 times 3 is 3. Over 1 times 1 is 1. I don't leave it like that because 3 divided by 1 simplifies to 3. And there's my answer. All right, now number 2, the first thing I need to do is anytime I have a mixed number, remember this is called a mixed number when I have a whole number and a fraction. That's a mixed number. When I have a mixed number, I need to change it to an improper fraction. Mixed number, change to improper fraction. What's an improper fraction? One where the numerator ends up being greater than the denominator, but there's no whole numbers left. We're getting rid of the whole number and moving it into the numerator spot. So how do you do that? You go 4 times 3 and then plus that 1. So 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1 is 13 over 3. 5, 6 does not simplify, or else I would do that. Division gets changed to multiplication by the reciprocal. Okay. Then what do I do now? I cross cancel. Is there any cross? If there is, there may not be cross canceling. But notice the GCF between 3 and 6 is 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 6 twice. There is no cross canceling with the 5 and the 13. Both of those are prime numbers. Remember what a prime number is when only one and the number divide into itself or multiply into it, that number. So now I multiply straight across. 13 times 2 is 26 and 1 times 5 is 5. Now in high school, we can go ahead and leave improper fractions. There's our answer. If you want to change it to a mixed number, 26 divided by 5 is 5 1/5 or 5.2. Okay, but if you try to change it to improper fraction and you mess up, now you're getting marked down. So if you want to be safe, you do it here. Now, if 26/5 simplified or reduced, we would need to do that. It does not, so I can leave it right there. Okay, let's look at others, and again, why we would want to cross cancel, etc. So let's say I have 36 over 49, and we'll go ahead and just do multiplication this time. And I have 35 over 48. Okay. Now, this is why we want to cross cancel. Who wants to multiply 36 times 35 and then 49 times 48 and then have to reduce that huge number? Not smart. Now, of course, a calculator will do it for you, graphing calculator will do it for you, but we want to use our own brain. The whole point in watching this video is you learn how to do it by your own self. So I look to cross cancel. What's the GCF of 36 and 48? First off, when you're looking for GCF, the biggest the GCF can be is whatever the difference between 48 and 36 is. What's 48 minus 36? You know that answer by now, 12. Now I ask myself, that's the biggest it can be. So does 12 go into both 36 and 48 evenly? Yes, it does. So that is the GCF. So I'm dividing each by 12 here. 36 divided by 12, we'll change the color. 3. 48 divided by 12, 4. Now, what's the GCF of 49 and 35? The greatest it can be is 14 because 49 minus 35 is 14, but 14 doesn't go into either one of those evenly. But what is half of 14? 7. Does 7 go both those? Yes, it does. Divided by 7. So I get 5 here and I get 7 here. Now I go ahead and multiply straight across. I have 15 over 28. And in case I didn't take the GCF of both of those, if I didn't, I'd be able to simplify this fraction more. But notice the only numbers, factors of 15 are 1, 3, 5, and 15. And none of those besides 1, and that doesn't count for anything really, goes into 28. So that is simplified. But if I didn't, like say instead of taking 12, I took 6, divide each by 6. Well, then I would be able to get a larger number and I'd be able to reduce that fraction more. But if you're taking the GCF, full GCF, not a partial, you think's the GCF and it really isn't, then that will simplify it down to the simplest one right there. Okay, almost all the time. Let's do one more with multiplication. That was just simple fractions. We're doing with that's a times sign. Make it a dot for you. 3 4/9 times 5 2/3. Okay, again, both of these are mixed numbers. I need to change to improper fractions. 9 times 3 is 27. Plus 4 is 31 over 9. 3 times 5 is 15. Plus 2 is 17 over 3. Now, if I notice right here, I look at cross canceling, there is no GCF on either of them. Okay, so I would just multiply straight across and that would be my answer. So 9 times 3 is 27. And let me show you one way that you can, a quick way of multiplication. In case you don't know this, I can go 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 1 is 1 plus 3 times 7 is 21. So 21 and 1 is 22. Carry the 2, and 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. I get the answer right away like that, 527. Okay, so again, working on doing the math on your own. And this is not going to reduce because when I like to cross cancel or vertically cancel, none of those reduce, no canceling. So that means the final answer is not going to cancel either. Okay, so there we have multiplying and dividing fractions. So think of those steps. So even if it's an equation, you have a mixed number with an equation, you have to first change it to an improper fraction. Just remember that. So it's all the basics you learned back in elementary school and should have been using all throughout middle school as well. About 11 minutes.